This is the Jason Walker Show. Two-time National Sports Media Association Montana Sportscaster of the Year and three-time loser, the Jason Walker Show. The best local and statewide sports coverage, featuring the biggest guests from Montana.
Flint Rasmussen joining us here on the Jason Walker Show.
He's freaking exhausting, too. You used to dance a lot more. Yeah, I know, lady. I'm 51 years old now.
The NAI Hall of Famer Mike Van Diest joining us here, Jason Walker Show. And is it just a deal where quarterbacks have to be good golfers?
Well, that's all they have time for. They don't work out. They don't lift weights. They don't do anything else. They might as well go get on the golf course and at least have some fun.
And from across the country,
Doug Gottlieb, our guest here on the Jason Walker Show.
End of the day, remember, it's your show. It's got your name on it.
Howie Mandel, our guest here.
Jason Walker, deal or no deal?
The Jason Walker Show, broadcasting from the Major Mortgage Man Cave. Here's Jason Walker.
All right, happy, Tuesday. Jason Walker Show, Major Mortgage Man Cave. Thanks for being here. Big show coming up today. Paul Schwedelson, Bozeman Daily Chronicle, will join us. We'll talk about Jeff Choate, his comments in both The Athletic and also his press conference yesterday. And in studio, Major Mortgage Man Cave, the man, Kyle Mihelish. There he is on camera, picking his nails. At least it wasn't his nose. Kyle Mihelish will join us, Capital football coach, coming up here in just a couple of minutes. So fun stuff. Looking forward to talking to Coach. Looking forward to talking high school football. Hopefully. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Hopefully we get a season to talk about. What else? We got On This Day in History coming up and a whole lot more. Don't forget this week, Scott Evans will join us tomorrow. Helena High coach. I can't have you guys in the same studio at the same time. They argue. Amanda Robertson, I believe, will join us. PGA or LPGA golfer on Thursday. Lance Hartzler will join us Friday, as well as a member of the Pac-12 network, because the Pac-12, along with the Big Ten, came out today and said we're not. Well, they said they're canceling their fall sports seasons, but are they moving them to the spring? That's the big question. The Pac-12 is going even further. They're not allowing any sports until January 1st of 21. That includes basketball. So that includes a lot of non-conference games. And I believe the Montana Grizz are supposed to play UCLA this year, because they were supposed to play a couple years ago. The Fires that canceled that. Was it last year? Anyway. But so no non-conference games. So volleyball, basketball, men's and women's basketball. This is all affected along with football. So that was the big news of the day. Across the country. Still waiting on the Big 12, which is supposedly on the fence. SEC and ACC came out today and said they're still planning to play football this fall. Apparently, their doctors are saying different than the Big 12 and the Pac-12 doctors. But the Big 10 came out today and told Nicole Auerbach of The Athletic there are no less than 10 football players in the Big 10 that have contracted COVID this summer and now have myocarditis. We talked a lot about it yesterday, the heart problems. This is a big deal, folks. This isn't just made up stuff. So there you go. Let's see. What else have we got going on? Our daily COVID update. 97 new cases. There are 590. He spoke to the Athletic and Bruce Feldman on Friday and was very blunt, calling out the NCAA, calling out the Power Fives, saying that your requirements for testing from the NCAA caused the Big Sky and a lot of these other schools to basically shut down till the spring. And there's no guarantee we're going to still have a spring football season. Coach Choate yesterday spoke to the media, and we've got a couple of sound bites here. Here's one.
And I'm not hopeful that I think that there's going to be a segment of our population within the college football world that chooses to go do their own thing and say, we're going to go make the money and we're going to, if we got to pay the players, we'll pay the players, whatever. But that's not going to work for everybody. And here's one thing I want to point out, and I don't mean to monopolize this, but this is Bill Lamberty said this to me yesterday. Might have been the day before. When we talk about like college football, right? What we think about in college football is 5% or so. I mean, it's the tip of the iceberg. When you think college football players, you think immediately Power 5. Okay, college football playoff, Alabama, SC, Dabo Sweeney, blah, 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 right? You can't lose that. It's too valuable. And quite honestly, I mean, I'm obviously biased in this. I mean, I'm a product of that. I played NAIA football. I had coaches in high school that cared about me. I had tremendous experience in a small town, and it motivated me and inspired me to get into education. And that road is what led me to Montana State as a head football coach. It wasn't like I woke up and I'm like, well, I'm making a lot of money and I'm done playing in the NFL. And so I'm going to go, I'm going to go over here and see if they'll let me be the linebacker coach because I got this playing experience. That's this much of college football. And we got to keep it in perspective, especially, and it's easier to do in a place like Montana because we do have, you got Montana Tech and Montana Western and on and on. And so, sorry for getting on my soapbox. Thank you.
Coach Choate is very smart. And I agree with a lot of what he said. And he said in the Athletic article on Friday, this decision to whatever we're going to do in the fall should have been made in June, not the second week of August. And, the players getting going, stopping. He talked about it being on a hamster wheel. He had more to say in his press conference yesterday, and here's another quote.
And I tend to think that is a problem. I think that's something that we're going to have to, you would have to push it up. You basically be doing kind of fall camp, winter camp, really right after the first of the year. Because you can't go, if you're going to do it at all, you better have this thing done by mid-April. Because they need that 6 weeks of kind of freedom, because month of May, generally for semester schools, they're off doing their own thing. And then you got to reboot sometime in early June to prepare for the fall of 21. Now, the one thing I will say is we cannot try to force this to happen in the spring at the expense of the fall of 21. I think we can all survive a year without this, but 2 falls is going to be devastating to our game and, possibly to a lot of athletic departments and football programs nationwide. And so I think whatever we choose to do in the spring cannot be at the expense of a full legitimate season in the fall of 21.
There's Coach Choate talking about moving the season to the spring, timing-wise, how's it going to affect? Because that's been a big deal. Everybody's talked about player safety, the health and the safety of the players. And if you go to a spring football season that ends in late May or early June, that's going to push the fall season back. And Coach Choate talking about that, saying we can lose one season. And I've literally been saying this for months. We can lose a whole year of football and sports, but we can't lose 2. And so you got to do this the right way. One final other quote from Coach Choate, and this one says a lot too.
I think that's why whatever we do has to be really well thought out. I don't think we can jump back into this kind of limbo that we've been in for quite some time. And maybe that's the best argument for if things are not pretty clear by, say, November, that might be the best argument for just saying, let's go to the fall of 21, because I do feel like we're going to lose some kids potentially, but we're going to lose a lot more if we keep them on this hamster wheel and nobody knows what the heck's going on. And so I think whatever this next move is just really critical for our game in the short run. In the long run, I think we'll all kind of get back to, there'll be, like I said, there'll be some changes that take place in college football. And I think that the game will survive this pandemic and some of the other things that are going on within the game. But it's going to take a lot longer to get it back if we keep screwing up, and meaning that we keep the indecision creates the anxiety and will force a lot of kids to say, you know what, I'm good.
Lots of interesting comments there from Jeff Choate, Montana State football coach yesterday, and video courtesy of Montana State Athletics. It's interesting, and we're going to talk to Coach Kyle Mihelish about it. He played at an NAIA school, and like Coach Choate, but there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of answers that we still don't have. What's the high school season look like? Because if you have to test at the college level, how are we going to test at the high school level? There's a lot of unanswered questions, but we're going to talk to Kyle Mihelish when we come back here in a few minutes on the Jason Walker Show. Paul Schwedelson of the Bozeman Daily Chronicle will talk more, break down more Coach Choate's comments. He did as well talk about, he said he had a great idea to make some money. Get 1,000 tickets for Bobcat fans and 1,000 tickets for Grizzly fans, and you sell them for $10,000 a piece, and you play a Cat Grizz game in Butte. I mean, that would make some money. And then the winner gets all the money. No 50-50 split, he said. Like, this is the winner take all. So, but he already did claim the state championship for Montana because they practiced more than Montana did this fall before the season got moved. So he claimed the Big Sky championship and the state championship. Also, he's thinking that if the Power 5 moves and they don't practice, that he can claim the FBS championship like UCF did. I like it. I think it's a heck of an idea. So there you go. We're going to get more on his thoughts with Paul Schwedelson, like I said, coming up on this day in history and a bunch more on the way too. So Pac-12, Big 12, moving their seasons for all fall sports and including some winter sports in the Pac-12. They won't do anything for the rest of the calendar year. We'll come back. We'll get Kyle Mihelish's thoughts on high school football and Coach Choate next on The Jason Walker Show. Have you thought about buying a home and just don't know where to begin? Well, when it comes to one of the most important purchases one can make, we understand it can be frustrating and confusing, but it doesn't have to be. Let the Major Mortgage team help you with all your mortgage needs. Major Mortgage means major service, and we would love the opportunity to help you today. Give J.R. McFadden, NMLS number 1246357, a call today at 406-465-1918, or you can visit him at 2001 11th Avenue, Building A, Suite 3 in Helena. Major Mortgage is a division of AMCAP Mortgage, NMLS number 129122, equal housing lender.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call State Farm agent Mike Miller in Helena today. Yes, it's true that Montana is a long way from the Gulf Coast, but you can bring that Cajun flavor home with a stop at Cafe Zydeco. From po' boys to classic sandwiches, Cafe Zydeco has all the best Cajun in town. Are you in the mood for seafood gumbo or crawfish etouffee? Maybe you're craving jambalaya with some shrimp and grits. Head in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or call ahead for pickup or delivery. Cafe Zydeco will fix all your southern cravings, even on a chilly Montana day. Cafe Zydeco is a proud sponsor of The Jason Walker Show. Do you love to look at photos of Montana, from animals to landscapes and more? Are you looking for a place to get your senior pictures or family portraits done? Are you a business owner looking to upgrade the decor in your offices? Well, look no further than Mark LaRoe Photography. Mark has been shooting beautiful photos all across the Treasure State, from rodeos to portraits, and would love to work with you. Visit marklaroephotography.com to see many masterpieces of his work, then give him a call to schedule your own photo shoot. Or to purchase one of his fantastic pieces, stop by Spirit of the Big Sky Gallery on Custer in Helena. marklaroephotography.com.
Store-wide savings are what you'll find when you shop for new home furnishings at Rucker's Furniture. This means tremendous values on Helena's largest in-stock selection of home furnishings. When you shop Rucker's, you'll find store-wide savings on the furniture you want for every room in your home. And you'll also find our selection of Serta iComfort, the most comfortable beds in Helena. 12-month financing is available with approved credit on most purchases over $299. Ask for details. You'll find store-wide savings at Rucker's Furniture, 1010 Dearborn, Helena.
Welcome back to the Jason Walker Show.
Welcome back inside the Major Mortgage Man Cave, Jason Walker Show on a Tuesday. More with Coach Jeff Choate from Montana State coming up. Talk to Paul Schwedelson of the Bozeman Daily Chronicle, and we'll break down Coach's comments. He had a great press conference yesterday, he really did. And of the 34 minutes, he spoke for like 30 of them, and 28 of them were serious.
But once we got the go-ahead June 12th, I believe that was, which was a Monday, after having that layoff and hiatus and Zoom meetings. Yeah. And, you know, one positive about that is we found new ways to communicate. I mean, we certainly used our resources, and we were able to have some position meetings online and through Microsoft Teams and through Zoom. And actually it worked out well for us. I mean, we got a lot done. But the summer has been good. The kids did great in the weight room, and outside and the workouts and practicing all social guidelines set forth by the district and recommendations by the county and MHSA. And we followed all of those things, and we had a great summer.
Did you do anything non-football related for the first time in a while?
A week ago, I took my 3 children to Yellowstone.
I saw that.
Hadn't been there in 12 years. It was great. We logged some miles on that Saturday. We went to see the Grand Canyon in the Yellowstone. That was my one goal. I wanted to see that waterfall, and it was impressive.
Nice. Your daughter, big award this spring, right? Or she's going to Missoula.
She's going to Missoula to run track.
Yeah.
She did get the Jude Gleason Award.
That's right, yeah.
From the kind of the student athlete of Capital High School as far as girls are concerned. And so I'm happy for her. She's put in a lot of good work.
Well, you do good work too. Kyle Mihalis joining us here in the Major Mortgage Man Cave. All right, so you went to school with Jeff Choate. Was he as open and honest then as he is now?
Yeah, I was the underclassman, and Choate was upperclassman. Very vocal, very enthusiastic, very much a hard worker. No, he was a good role model to have, and has developed a good friendship. There was a lot of us down there, a lot of guys coaching in the state of Montana that were down at Western at that time, whether they be at Montana State or scattered throughout our state or scattered around the country. We're lucky to go to school with a lot of good guys.
Well, you and I have talked about this before, and I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the air, but you look at some of those guys, Nick Howlett, Scott Evans, Manny Garza, Choate, B.J. Robertson,
Brian Armstrong.
I mean, these are all guys that have had success both at the high school and the collegiate level, and you're right there with them.
Yeah, no, it's like I mentioned to you earlier. I'm glad I made the decision that I did to go to Western because of those lifelong friendships, and those guys are just a phone call away. Whether it's just a talk or hey, what do you think about this, or have some ideas or have some questions. It's a real good group of guys.
So when Jeff Choate got the job at Montana State, did you expect a call? I mean, he took BJ and Brian.
No. I'm not in a point in my life right now where I want to make that jump right now.
Kyle Mihalis joining us here on the Jason Walker Show. Last week it came out, I don't know if it's been approved yet by the Board of Governors and their infinite wisdom, MHSA Board of Governors, but non-conference games for AA and Class A I've seen now going to be scrapped. So you guys are only going to play a 7-game schedule starting a couple of weeks later, and instead of August 28th, it'll be September 11th, it looks like. Well, September 10th, I think, for Helena High, but you guys for the 11th. Losing games is never fun, and hopefully we can get a season. But what was the decision behind non-conference games being scrapped?
I don't know if I've received a firm confirmation on anything. Part of me says is maybe it's kind of so we can get more of an organizational plan. Whether we have a soft opening of school or an online version of school. I think it's real difficult for kind of the policymakers, decision makers to kind of be on the same page right now with all of this being new. But with us losing those non-conference games, it'll give us some more time to, get the kids prepared. I mean, when you look at that too, we'll basically have 3 weeks of practice and then a game week. And I was looking at the calendar when we had a staff meeting last week, we could get up to 22 practices in.
Oh, nice.
Because we're not going to go 2-a-days. I mean, we have so much time to get some things done. And you have 3 weeks, like I said, and then a game week. So we could get 22 practices in pretty easy.
It's almost like spring ball.
It is almost like spring ball.
For college. And no 2-a-days, that's going to be big. And it's a big adjustment for players and coaches alike.
Sure.
I mean, the players are going to love it.
Yeah. We'll do a good, strong, it'll be a full morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we're just going to go practice for 2 hours. I mean, we're going to have weight training and we're going to have meetings and, kind of treat it like the college does now because they can't do 2-a-days. So their practice days are a little longer.
Right.
I mean, they'll get a break and then it'll be good. We'll still get a lot of good work in.
Kyle Mihalis joining us, the Capital football coach here at Jason Walker Show. You mentioned the school. You're a teacher. And take out the football aspect of things right now, just from the teaching aspect. How tough was the spring, and where are we headed for the fall? Because I think the plan right now is a couple of days in
AA, C day,
split
BB,
up, and
yeah. So right now, as far as I understand it, Monday, Tuesdays are going to be those kids chosen to go on that A day. The Wednesday is going to be an off day, kind of an online. They're going to sanitize the school.
Okay.
And then Thursday, Friday, those kids that missed the first half of the week are going to come in the second half. I think it's real limited on who you have in your classroom as far as 12 to 15 kids, social distancing. So again, you're going to be working with them personally, and they're going to be working with them online as well.
Okay. Which is tough.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes down.
Okay, you're in the high school, so it's easier to tell high school kids that they have to wear the masks. Gives me some advice on what you're going to, how teachers that teach younger kids can deal with this.
You know,
because you can't tell me a 6-year-old in first grade is going to keep his mask on.
I know. Have you ever been in a kindergarten class?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've always marveled at elementary teachers and how patient they are and how good they are with kids. And you know, we're going to still have kids in high school who say, no, I'm not going to wear my mask. You know, you're infringing on my rights. And, you know, as long as if it's a school policy, then it's a school policy. I mean, that's just like
wearing a hat.
So like when we had a hat rule and kids wore hats, I was like, hey, you know, you take your hat off. And I guess it's going to be the same thing with the mask. You know, and I don't know if we're social distancing that the mask can come off or all the time when you're in the school, or we're going to have the mask on. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and school's supposed to start soon.
So
this probably should be figured out. Wes Ross, by the way, says hi.
Oh, good.
Yeah, good. Great coach up there at GFCZ now. All right, back to the football now. It's Kyle Mihalis joining us here in the studio. Mike Miller, State Farm Hotline. Are you confident that a full season can get played?
I think once we get going, sure. I mean, I think it's to the point where as long as we're ready to go on Friday, the thing that, you know, kind of agreeing with what Jude had to say, listening to his comments, you know, if we're going to go, let's go. But if there's any doubt in your mind, whether it be the MHSA or the athletic directors or the superintendents, then let us know now. I mean, and then we can deal with those decisions. But if it's a go, let's go. I mean, I would really not like it to, you know, we start practice on Friday. We're going to turn it into kind of a records day and make sure we're all organized and then get going on Monday. So if we're going to collect, you know, all of the physicals and concussion forms and all of that on Friday, to me, we're going. And then, you know, then on Monday when we start handing out gear, next week when we start handing out gear, you know, this is a selfish thing to say as a football coach, but every football coach I know in the state of Montana or the country is thinking about it. So all of a sudden I issue gear to 85 kids on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of next week, and then all of a sudden by next Friday they pull the plug on that. I'm going to have a hard time gathering 85 sets of gear, you know, when you have 85 helmets out and each of those helmets cost $330.
Yep.
That's a coaching logistic nightmare right there. And those are things that I don't think people understand. Like this just isn't, we just don't show up on Friday and we're playing a football game.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes.
Yep. I've been very vocal since March that we need to, and Coach Choate talked about it, like we can survive a whole year without sports. It would suck for the seniors. There's no question about that. But at the end of the day, is their safety more important than playing fall football?
Sure. Well, yeah, you know, and I guess I'm not scientifically inclined to answer that, but you know, it would be a horrible thing if, you know, the pandemic affects kids that are playing football, whether it be the AA or Class C or whatever it is, and then you have to shut that program down, and then what do? Shut the school down, and then you have those COVID cases, and you know, you reference testing. You know, our common questions were before a kid entered the building and having a mask were, do you feel nauseous? Do you have a fever? You know, and has anybody tested positive for COVID in your family in the last 14 days? And we kept record of all of those things. And, you know, that's as far as our testing is, you know, and I don't know what would be implemented, or I'm sure when a kid comes back with a positive test and say, we were up at Glacier playing Glacier, then, you know, what does that look like?
Right, because then that affects it. You know, you see it in Major League Baseball with 4 teams affected because one team was or had some positive tests. So I mean, it's a trickle down effect, and nobody knows any answers. And I think that's the problem, is that there are no answers.
Yeah.
You know, as Kyle Mihalis joins us here, Mike Miller, State Farm Hotline. Coach, when you guys aren't required to do the testing that the college guys are.
No. And
I guess that makes it a little bit easier to throw the kids out. But what scares me, and this is part of what the Big 12 and the Pac-12 decided today with postponing their seasons, is the myocarditis, the long-term effects that we don't know. There's no less than 10 right now football players in the Big 10 that had COVID. Now they have this heart issue. That bothers me as a parent of a former high school kid and soon-to-be high school kid.
Sure.
That the long-term effects. And to me, it's not worth risking their safety to go play a game on a Friday night.
Sure.
That's just my thoughts.
I know. And I certainly would not want to put a young man in harm's way. And those are, I know Tim McMahon, our athletic director, has done a fantastic job trying to develop a plan and dealing with the county health officials. And they are constantly talking with one another. And I know the MHSA met with the governor last week, and all of that information filtered down to the ADs as of Friday and over the weekend. And I know there was an athletic director meeting today, and I don't know exactly what was said, but I think the biggest concern and problem they're having is, yes, having all counties, health departments, being on the same page. And what does a football game on Friday night look like? Some people are interpreting it as 50 per sideline. Some people are interpreting it as 50 total, which I could not imagine. If you're going to play a football game with 50 total, that means, say, 25 and 25.
Right.
And then that's on the sideline. But then you're axing numbers off the top because you still need referees.
Yep.
You still need medics. You still need a chain crew. So rolling into a football game on Friday night with 20 kids, that is a disservice to those kids. You're putting them in harm's way.
Well, I mean, Class C 6 and 8 man would argue that they do it literally every weekend.
Sure. But the numbers of it all, I mean...
Right. No, yeah. And that's the whole thing that we saw with baseball in Legion. I'm glad they were able to get to their state tournament, was nobody knew if it was the 250 including the players or the fan. I mean, it was just nobody knew. And you see the problems in Missoula County. So if you have a game scheduled with Sentinel or Hellgate or Big Sky at Missoula, there could be some questions if that game's even going to get played.
I know. And, to me, the long-term effect of those decisions, just like losing football for a year, losing it for 2 years, so we're going to go play a Missoula school with 20 kids, and one coach or whatever that may be. And then, obviously, you're going to try and pick your 20 most athletic kids, but then where are your twos? And then where are your threes? And that week of practice. So you're telling them, well, you're not going to play this week, but we want you around. Right. Go do it. We're expected you to be on time and be in the weight room and work hard at practice, but you're not going to play because now we have
to travel.
Not even going to get to travel. So that's the thing that worries me right now, just about the game of football. Not necessarily just not the virus aside.
Right.
It really makes me nervous about football because football in the past few years obviously taken a hit.
Yep.
All of a sudden, a lot of people think you throw a helmet on, you're going to get a concussion, which is unfair to the sport. And I've always thought that concussion talk is real. People do get concussions. I think last year, the year before, we had one concussion in our entire program.
Wow.
And that's through freshman, GV games, varsity games. So you're talking, 20, 25 games.
Right.
And we have one concussion. So that takes a hit, but football still takes a bad rap for a lot of that stuff. But we've learned different ways of coaching, tackling more,
right.
The hawk roll tackle and concentrating, just different techniques. And that mentality has changed football for the better. But this really concerns me as far as if we can play, great. The other argument is that other people interpret it, we have 50 on this side, 50 on that sideline, and then we whack 5 off the top, and so we're down to 45 on both sides because you still need chain crew, referees. So then if you had one coach, you have 44 kids. If you have 5 coaches, you can have 40 kids on the sideline.
Yep.
So that's more manageable, and you could filter in those kids that are kind of your tweeners and your twos to still have an experience of traveling, being on the sideline, and those types of things, because you have obviously a larger amount you can deal with. And that's what most are pushing for. But some counties, and say for example like Missoula, is interpreting it as 50 total.
Right. And that's no fans in the stands.
No fans.
So, I mean, as a parent, you don't get to see your kid play their last season if there is a season.
If there is a season. And as long as we're in the stadiums, the only way they can watch it is on that NFHS.
Right.
And by that.
Yep.
And another, and this was brought up, and it hadn't been talked about my question was, so we play a JV game at 3 with that group of 40 and 5 coaches or whatever it is. And since you can't have stands, what do we do with that group? Because all of my coaches are sophomore through varsity coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are varsity football coaches. So nobody necessarily knew, do we put them in the stands? Do we just put them on the bus, send them home? So then I have to send 2 coaches home after the JV game with that group of kids that can't stay and watch, be a part of it and watch their teammates. And then 2 coaches, thanks for coaching this week, you got to go home.
Nuts. There's a lot of and I've been saying this since March. There's so many unanswered questions that we can talk about losing a season, but it's everything else that's involved, or playing a game and everything else involved. I said basically there's 3 options for MHSA this year, and this includes all sports and obviously football. We either start and finish. Would you rather start and finish, which is obviously what everybody wants to do?
After 2 games, then they pull it. But I think